And here we are with Mars Perseverance, 51 years later, getting ready to do the first ever Mars return mission.
Eventually, we can bring those samples back to Earth and determine for the very first time, did life exist on Mars?
In less than an hour, NASA's 300 million mile journey from America's shore to Jezero Crater on Mars will begin with the launch of this Atlas V rocket into space. And at the top of that rocket, with a beautiful sunrise and shrouded by that protective fairing, is the Perseverance rover headed to Mars, ready to ride a column of fire and smoke on its way to the red planet.
Things really got going this morning just after midnight, actually, and Atlas V is just about ready to fly. In a few more minutes, we're going to get the final check of the weather, and that weather report should be coming back really positive. It's been great all morning. We have the terminal count ahead after that. We will be proceeding through the last few minutes of the countdown, and then the drama will be at its peak at launch when the clock strikes 0, the engines ignite, and the spacecraft and rocket take flight. After successfully passing through max Q just shy of 2 minutes into flight, the solid rocket boosters will be expended and will be jettisoned. Nearly 2 more minutes, and the payload fairing, what you might call the nose cone of the rocket, that has been protecting Perseverance, will no longer be needed. It will split in 2 halves and fall away from the accelerating vehicle. 1 minute later, the Atlas booster will have finished its task of lifting Perseverance above Earth's atmosphere and being on the way to orbit. It too will separate, exposing the Centaur RL-10 upper stage engine that will almost immediately begin its first burn that lasts approximately 7 minutes. After coasting for more than 30 minutes, the second burn, lasting around 8 minutes, will take Perseverance out of Earth orbit and into solar orbit on its way to Mars. That sets up spacecraft separation and the final milestone we're hoping to hear this morning, the acquisition of signal. And I say hoping to intentionally because it's quite possible that Perseverance will be in perfect condition, but we won't make contact during the broadcast.
Rock, report range status.
Range green.
That's good to hear, Joshua, right there.
Public safety there is accounted for, the FTS system. There you see on your screen a beautiful shot. The skies look great. There's little wind happening. You'd be able to see more of the venting. If there were wind, the trail of that venting. So we're ready to go.
And actually, that's an important point. The reason we don't see that venting is the vent valves have been locked up to put flight pressure into the tanks. And as we just heard, they're stable at step 3, which means the tanks are ready to go. And here at about 5 seconds, we will hear the team
ECS reduced for launch.
Give the final go.
25 seconds.
Status check. Go Atlas.
Go Centaur.
Go Mars 2020.
There we go. We are ready to go lift off this morning, Joshua.
Eight, 7, 6, 5, 4. Engine ignition. 2, 1, 0. And liftoff. As the countdown to Mars continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation of robotic explorers to the red planet.
And Atlas TU has gone to closed loop control. Coming up on 30 seconds into flight, the RD-180 is throttling down as expected. Engine response looks good. And Mach 1 Atlas V is now supersonic. And passing 45 seconds into flight, vehicle is now passing through max Q, maximum dynamic pressure. And we have burnout on all 4 SRBs. Burnout pressure signatures look good. Standing by for SRB jettison shortly. And we have a good indication of SRB jettison of all 4 SRBs. And the vehicle has gone to closed loop guidance. Vehicle body rates are responding nominally at this time. And we have good indication of payload fairing jettison and Centaur forward load reactor deck jettison. And we have BECO, booster engine cutoff, standing by for stage separation. And we have good indication of Atlas Centaur separation.
So there you're seeing live footage.
And we
from
have
the
Mars
rocket.
1. Chamber pressures are stable. This will be the first of 2 burns for today's mission. This first burn will be approximately 7 minutes in length.
Ultimately, a lot of people probably, and myself included at some point, just like, why wouldn't you just keep firing the engines? Just fire all the way through and get to Mars in one shot.
So the first burn gets us into that park orbit we talked about. We've lifted off, we've left Earth, we've got into a park orbit around Earth right now. And while we're in that park orbit, we will perform some maneuvers to kind of roll Mars Perseverance and the Centaur and coast during that time, basically setting itself up looking at the sun and away from the sun to control the thermal environments that are on Mars 2020 during this coast period. That coast period will allow us to coast around into the position that we need so that we can have that second firing to get the velocity needed to head off into Mars. And I'm hearing that settling is done
and we have main engine
start.
There we go. Awesome. And again, that animation there being driven by actual telemetry data coming from that rocket. So that's a phenomenal sign. And again, I think that it's tough with these images. Perspective and scale are so important. This vehicle is in Earth orbit. It's not near anything, so you can't see the acceleration of what's happening right now. But for 8 minutes, it's going to be picking up speed.
Yeah, this is the burn that gets us really moving in the direction we need to go, that fast velocity that we need to get out of our park orbit and head on our way to Mars. Of course, Centaur and Mars 2020 are still together, and as we're hearing, everything is looking nominal on this fire so far. The main engine start was good, and the firing is going well, nominal, as we see in the animation there.
So RCS there, the reaction control system, that's those small, the series of those small engines that you see firing around the spacecraft. Those are used for that in-flight operations that they need. The rolling activities, as Mick's saying, is basically providing stability to the flight of Mars 2020 as we go forward. Tell us about actually...
And we have successful separation of Mars 2020 with the Perseverance rover.
There we go.
Awesome. We got some nice applause there. That is a big moment. We are hoping to get some live video back from that because of the time delays with communicating with things in space. We don't have it at this instant. We're hoping we'll get to see that here in a few minutes, and we'll bring that to you if we do.
That's it.
Copy that. Radio science.
Flight nav. Go ahead, nav. We're seeing one-way Delta.
Thank you so much for watching NASA's launch coverage of Mars 2020. Stay tuned to NASA TV and our social media channels for updates to the mission.
Yeah, coming up in just a bit at 11:30 Eastern Daylight Time, we will have a post-launch news conference right here on NASA TV, so stay tuned for that. And of course, to the next big moment that we've been talking about, the landing of the Perseverance rover on the surface of Mars 7 months from now. That date, February 18th, 2021. So for now, we leave you with highlights from the thrilling liftoff earlier this morning. Take care, everyone, and remember, keep looking up.
6, 5, 4, engine ignition, 2, 1, 0.
Release.
And liftoff. As the countdown to Mars continues, the perseverance of humanity launching the next generation of robotic explorers to the Red Planet.